You. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time that we change our approach to software development. We've been doing the same thing for over 20 years. And did you know that 45% of product launches fail due to lack of market fit? What do? We put a bunch of engineers in a room and tell them to pump out a product. Why do we do this? Because we've been doing the same thing again and again. We get in a rut. You know, I walk my dog 3 times a day. At night, we tend to take a path that goes by a park. At night, it's really dark by the park, so I try to do a little risk avoidance, and we'll go along, I'll cross the street to the other side so I don't walk right by the park, because who knows what's hiding in there. And then we'll come back on that side of the street and come around. Well, if my dog decides to go during the day, don't you know that we will get to that one driveway, and he will pull me across the street because we shouldn't go by the park.
That's right.
Doesn't know why we don't go by the park. He just knows that at this point we cross the street, and that's what we are doing. We're doing the same thing over and over. So what I want to tell you is a new way to look at things. Instead of looking inside out as a company, we want to look at the customer. We want to use an approach called EDIPT, and it is basically design innovation. It is using a methodology, and I'll go over that with you. So EDIPT is an acronym, okay? It stands for, and I'm going to go through each of these points, and then I'll dive into them to give you a little bit more example. But empathize is the E, okay? So we want to learn about the customer as a person. We need to know what they're like. Are you a mother, a son? Are you a fisherman, etc.? So we know what the person's like. D is define. So we want to define what the problem is. What are they doing? You know, what is their needs from their point of view? So we learn more of basically what they're trying to accomplish. I is for ideate. So now that we know the problem, we're going to ideate. We're going to figure out what are some good solutions to this problem. P is prototype. In prototyping, we're basically going to lay things out and spell them out so that we can explain our idea. And T is for test. And that's where we actually test our idea and put things, maybe a prototype into the marketplace. So I'm going to dig into these a little bit further. Empathize. So this is where we want to understand the customer, like I say. You do an interview. You would interview people, and there's many ways to actually empathize and learn the customer. But one of the key ones is an interview. And when you do interviews, you basically want to foster stories. You don't want to ask yes/no questions because you're looking for those little subtle things that they kind of go off on tangents on. So you generate these stories, get them to talk, and basically learn about them that way. With the interviews, you can then build personas. You can kind of categorize people and say, you know what? These people, teenage girls, use this certain application this way. Older people might use it this way. And so when you separated them and grouped them into personas, now you kind of have an idea of what you're going after. What is my product best fit? Or what is our solution best fit as a company? Next would be define, right? So define, we're really looking for defining the problem. Basically, I've always said that a problem well stated is a problem half solved. So if you can really figure out the true problem, you can go after it better. And one of the key things to look at is jobs to be done. I've heard it said, and I honestly forgot who said the quote, that people don't want a 1/4-inch drill bit, they want a 1/4-inch hole.
That's true.
So you think about, there's many ways to make a hole. You could have a hole punch, you could have, of course, a drill bit or a press or whatever. So try to get to the true jobs to be done and to understand how we can go about really attacking that problem. Then there's the ideate. So ideate is the fun part. Ideate is where we sit there and brainstorm solutions and figure out how we're going to solve this problem. One of the key ways to do this, and I will add, a lot of people jump right to ideate. It's always, they kind of think they know it, and that's what our problem's been in this company in the past is, I know what the problem is, they need this, boom, let's go off and build it, boom, throw it out there. Well, if we go through the steps that I just stated, when you get to ideate, then you can have what we call a workout. Bring a bunch of people like yourself into a room, and go through a methodology where we throw things up on the board, where we brainstorm. We can basically throw ideas out. We can, and in brainstorming, one of the key things to remember is there's no bad ideas. Sure. Do you know that I don't know if people remember, some might be old enough to remember, there used to be the old cameras and there was a flash cube that went on top of the camera, okay? And every time you press the button, the thing would flash and it would turn. Well, that came about during a brainstorming session. As they got to like the 11th hour, people were really tired. They're trying to figure out, the problem was people were burning themselves on the bulb because it was just one bulb. it would flash, and they'd try to take it out to put another one in. So one guy said, why don't we put an ice cube on the camera? And everybody, you idiot, yeah. And this guy said, ice cube, cube. What if we make a cube and put bulbs in 4 sides, and then it'll just turn on its own? So here, on a brainstorming session where someone came up with this very crazy, outlandish idea, it fostered someone else to really think about something that could really be useful. Another idea too is backwards brainstorming in the ideate. That's when you figure out, how can we make this thing worse? Because what that does is it makes you, it's also fun, and you think about, how can I really make this problem worse? And it points you to possible solutions to solve that. So once you've done that, the next thing is you need to communicate this. Probably have a small group, we need to prototype. You always think of prototypes, and you do use your prototype in the test phase, but prototypes could be a drawing, could be a storyboard where you're showing the steps that are going to occur. Here's the user experience, here's what's happening. And that way you can communicate it. You can communicate it to the user community or even your counterparts in the company. Finally is the testing. So with testing, you essentially want to do a prototype that you can share. Now an interesting story too is Google with the Google Glasses. When they first came up with Google Glasses, they threw together this prototype to try to figure out, well, I've got these glasses and it's got a screen right here. How do I control the screen? I don't have a mouse, right? I don't have a keyboard. So they said, well, what if we put wristbands on somebody and we can, basically they can control it by making hand motions. So let's do a prototype. And they used like string on a board, and this person would use the prototype and he'd walk and he's trying to do like this, and and the other people sitting in the audience said, you know what? This is not going to fly socially. You cannot be walking down the hall doing this because people are going to, really look at you. So let's come up with a different idea. So there's an example early on where they did a quick prototype, and the people in the room actually said, time out, we need another idea here. And of course, I said the test, the final phase, is putting it out in like focus groups, is actually having people use the product and try it, give you feedback, and then iterate on it. It's always that agile approach where you basically do something, try something, and then change it, and iterate and improve it. So through the EDIP process, we can understand our customer, design a product, not like a bunch of engineers, because engineers are really good at making things, but they might not hit the mark and know what they want. So basically, I'll just leave you with the fact that if it's nighttime and you are walking around the block near the dark park, you should go around it. But if it is between 8 and 5, I want you folks to go straight into the park, sit on the swing, and know our customers so we can build the right products.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you.